After Spring by Jung continuation. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I ask one. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf. He answers simply. The writer asked one of them that why he was not wearing any footwear. The boy simply replied that his mother has not got them down from the shelf because it was beyond his reach. He did not wear any of it. Even if she did, he will throw them off, adds another one who's wearing shoes that do not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair all his life. Traveling across the country, I have seen children walking barefoot in cities on village roads. It is not lack of money, but a tradition to stay barefoot is one explanation. I wonder if there is only an excuse to explain away a perpetual state of poverty. Underline the words shuffles. Shuffles means slide them over each other. Excuse means make a reason to justify something. Perpetual state of poverty, never ending or continuous stage of poverty. So another boy who was wearing a different pair of shoes, that means in one foot he was having some other shoes and the other foot he was having some other. He said that even if his mother would have given him the footwear, he would have thrown it away. He meant that the boy was not wearing footwear because he did not want to wear one. Then the writer explains that she has traveled across the country and she found many barefooted boys, and some of them, in order to hide their continuous state of poverty, call it a tradition. A third boy spoke that he was eager to get a pair of shoes as he has never ever had a pair of shoes in his own life. The writer takes the examples of these examples to highlight the condition of these poor boys. They search the garbage dumps looking for such precious things. She further tells us that she has traveled across the country and she has seen that there are many children walking barefoot in the cities as well as villages. They give the reason that it is not due to the lack of money, but being barefoot was a tradition. The writer wondered and concluded that the reason of it being a tradition was a mere excuse to hide the fact that they were so poor that they cannot afford a footwear. She further says, I remember a story a man from Udupi once told me. As a young boy, he would go to school past an old temple where his father was a priest. He would stop briefly at the temple and pray for a pair of shoes. 30 years later, I visited his town and the temple, which was now drowned in an air of desolation. In the backyard, there lived a new priest. There were red and white plastic chairs. A young boy dressed in a grey uniform, wearing socks and shoes, arrived panting and threw his school bag on the folding bed. Looking at the boy, I remembered the prayer another boy had made to the goddess when he had finally got a pair of shoes. Let me never lose them. The goddess has granted his prayer. Young boy, like the son of the priest, now wore shoes. But many others, like the rag pickers in my neighborhood, remain shoeless. The words to be underlined here are desolation, the state of being empty. Panting means taking short and quick breath when you are running out of breath. Okay, the explanation of this. The writer narrates a story over here. She is told by a man from Udupi. Udupi is a town in Karnataka. So she was told this story from a man living in Udupi. When he was a young boy, he would walk on to his school. On the way, he would cross a temple where his father worked as a priest. He would stop at the temple and pray to the god to bless him with a pair of shoes. Look at the words used here. He would pray for a pair of shoes because that was the biggest blessing at that time for him. After 30 years, the writer visited the town and the temple. Now the place was nearly empty, desolate. The new priest lived in the background of the backyard of the temple. There were plastic chairs in red and white color kept over there. A young boy came running, panting. He was wearing grey-colored school uniform, socks, and especially shoes. He had a school bag hung on his shoulders. He threw it on the bed and ran away. The writer wants to say that the financial position of the priest at the temple had improved over the last 30 years. Now he could afford shoes for his children. She was reminded of the another boy who got a pair of shoes and prayed to the goddess that he may never lose them. And as a result of the prayer being granted, now the other generation, now they are getting the shoes to wear. Okay, moving further. My acquaintance with the barefoot rag picker leads me to Seemapuri, a place on the periphery of Delhi, yet miles away from it metaphorically. Those who live here are squatters who came from Bangladesh back in 1971. Sahib's family is among them. Seemapuri was then a wilderness. It still is, but it is no longer empty. In structure of mud, but roofs of tin and tarpaulin, devoid of sewage, drainage or running water, live 10,000 rag pickers. So words to be underlined here are acquaintance. Acquaintance means contact people. Periphery, outer area. Metaphorically means symbolically. Squatters, a person who unlawfully occupies an uninhabited building or unused land. Wilderness, a wasteland. Tarpaulin, heavy duty-proof waterproof cloth. Okay, the writer describes the area where these rag pickers live. Seemapuri, located on the outskirts of Delhi, the periphery of Delhi, was very different from the capital of the country. In 1971, when these rag pickers had migrated from Bangladesh, the area had been a wasteland. Seemapuri was still a wasteland, but now it was not empty, as almost 10,000 rag pickers lived there in a structure of mud with roofs made of thin sheets of tin and plastic called tarpaulin. There was no sewage or drainage or running water facility in Seemapuri. They lived in unhygienic conditions. It is a piece of wasteland where the garbage of the city is collected. These people had started living there illegally. They have lived here for more than 30 years without any identity, without permit, but with ration cards that get their names on the voters list and enable them to buy grains. Food is more important for survival than the identity. If at the end of the day we can feed our families and go to bed without an aching stomach, then we would rather live here than in the fields that gave us no grains, says a group of women in tattered saris when I ask them why they left their beautiful land of green fields and rivers. So, underline the word permits means legal documents, tattered means torn. The rag pickers, they had been living illegally in Seemapuri for last 30 years. They have occupied the area without any government's permission or ownership. The politicians of this area, pay attention, they have provided them with the ration cards so that their names can be there on the voters list, and this is a big number, 10,000. They can give votes. They got the grocery for their family through these ration cards, and in return they can cast their votes in favor of the politician who has helped them. The writer asked a group of women who were wearing saris that were torn, why did they leave their homes in Dhaka? They replied that if they were able to satisfy their hunger and sleep with a full stomach at night, they will be happier to live in the periphery of Seemapuri than to live in the green fields of Dhaka. Wherever they find food, they pitch their tents that become transit home. Children grow up in them, become partners in survival. And survival in Seemapuri means rag picking. This is the most important line. Survival in Seemapuri means rag picking. Through the years, it has acquired a proportion of a fine art. Garbage to them is gold. It is their daily bread, a roof over their heads, even if it is a leaking roof. But for a child, it is even more. So these people, they have traveled in search of food, and wherever they got the food, they set up a temporary home and started living there. Their children kept on growing there, and gradually they started helping their parents in seeking means of survival. For those who are living in Seemapuri, the means of survival is only rag picking, as they had been doing it for many years. They became trained in rag picking and did it very well. For the rag pickers, the garbage was as precious as gold. These families searched the garbage dumps and got things which they sold to fund their foods. They gathered torn and damaged sheets which were used to cover their roof or to cover the roofs of their homes. They did not cover them well, but still provided them with some of the protection from heat and rain. For the children, the garbage dump was not only the means of survival, but it was something as compared to gold. Now, here comes the name of the first part. I sometimes find a rupee, even a 10 rupees note. Sahib says, his eyes lighting up. So Sahib is saying that sometimes while he is scrounging the garbage, he finds a rupee and even 10 rupee note he is finding. You can find a silver coin in heap of garbage. You don't stop scrounging, for there is hope of finding more. It seems that for children, garbage has a meaning different from what it is meant to their parents. For the children, it is wrapped in wonder. For the elders, it is the means of survival. Lighting up means showing more joy or happiness. So Sahib was happy to say that sometimes he found a rupee or even a 10 rupee note in the dump, as one often finds even a silver coin in the garbage dump. He kept on searching or hoping to find more. For children, the garbage dump was not only the means of survival, but it was full of wonders. For their parents, it was a means of survival, because it provided them with food, clothing and shelter. One winter morning, I see Sahib standing by the fenced gate of the neighborhood club, watching two young men dressed in white playing tennis. I like the game, he hums. Content to watch it standing behind the fence, I go inside when no one is around, he admits. The gatekeeper lets me use the swing. Content means satisfied. One winter morning, the writer saw Sahib standing at the fence of the club. Fence means the boundary of the club. He was watching a tennis game being played by two young men. Sahib liked the game very much but could not play it because he could not afford it. He told the writer that he went inside the club when there was nobody around because the gatekeeper allowed him to use the swing over there. Okay, Sahib too is wearing tennis shoes that look strange over his discolored shirt and shorts. Someone gave them to me, he says in a manner of an explanation. The fact that they were discolored shoes of some rich boy who perhaps refused to wear them because of the hole in one of them does not bother him at all. For one who has walked barefoot, even shoe with a hole is a dream come true. But the game he is watching is so intently is out of his reach. Discarded means thrown away, not using anymore. Bother means worry. The writer saw that Sahib was also wearing tennis shoes. They did not look appropriate with his dress because his dress was faded. He told the writer in an attempt to justify himself, as if he has done some crime, that someone gave him these shoes. She, however, figured out that he has got them from a garbage dump. They must have been thrown away by a boy from a rich family, as he did not want to wear them anymore because there was a hole in one of the shoes. But for the one who has walked barefoot, wearing a shoes, even though it is having a hole in one foot, is like a dream come true. This morning, Sahib is on his way to the milk booth. In his hand is a steel canister. I now work in a tea stall down the road, he says, pointing in the distance. I am paid 800 rupees and all my meals. Does he like the job? I ask. His face, I see, has lost the carefree look. The steel canister seems heavier than the plastic bag he would carry, so light over his shoulder. The bag was his. Underline these words. The bag was his. The canister belongs to a man who owns the tea shop. Now Sahib is no longer his own master. Now he is working for someone else. He is no longer his own master. He's a servant to somebody else, whatever he's doing. So one morning the writer met Habe, who was having a steel canister on his shoulder. He was going towards a milk booth. He told her that now he is not doing the rack picking business, but he is working in a tea stall. He is being paid with 800 rupees and the meals for all the 3 times. When the writer asked that is he happy, is he liking the job, he lost all the carefree look on his face. That means he was not confident, because he was not his own master now. He was somebody's servant now. Earlier, as a rack picker, Sahib would carry his own bag and he was his own master. Now, he is no longer his own master. So here we conclude the first part of the chapter, Lost Spring. That was about Sahab-e-Alam, a small boy who was in the rack picking business in the place called Seemapuri, that is on the periphery of Delhi. The next part of the story is I want to drive a car, that we will be doing in our next audio explanation. I hope this part is very clear to you. Thank you, everyone. Lost Spring by Jung, continuation. Why aren't you wearing chappals? I ask one. My mother did not bring them down from the shelf. He answers simply. The writer asked one of them that why he was not wearing any footwear. The boy simply replied that his mother has not got them down from the shelf, because it was beyond his reach. He did not wear any of it. Even if she did, he will throw them off, adds another one who is wearing shoes that do not match. When I comment on it, he shuffles his feet and says nothing. I want shoes, says a third boy who has never owned a pair all his life.